Hi there. This video is about public support or presidential approval ratings. And presidential approval ratings take a pretty standard path, but there are some ways that that path can be altered. Typically, you have higher ratings when you first come into office, and they steadily decline. And at the end, if you are going to have a re-election, boom, they're going to tick up just a little bit. And that is pretty much a standard, but there are ways that that can be impacted, okay, in modern presidency. Ratings can go down during an economic downturn, particularly if it is a lengthy economic downturn. No president wants to be known as the recession president, and that is because we tend to tie very closely the economic system with the success and failures of the presidency. And so that can be detrimental if we are due for a recession. Our recessions tend to be pretty cyclical. Our economy goes up and down in waves. There are actions that a president can take to help make the recession not as bad if one is upcoming. And there are actions that the president can take that will decrease the recession or make it worse. And the economy itself is a massive juggernaut, of course, but we still tie that as a group very closely to the president. So an economic downturn, particularly a protracted one, is likely to see a decrease in ratings for the president. Now, during your third year as president, ratings traditionally are at their lowest, and that is pretty standard. The public does get a little bit impatient. We are consistently looking for the new thing, especially now, in the Twitter and the Snapchat and TikTok generation, we tend to move along to the next thing very swiftly, and 4 years is a long time. So the third year, typically the people are the most tired of you, and so in the third year, you're going to see that decrease. Now, ratings can go up. You are typically going to see the highest ratings of a presidency during their honeymoon period. The honeymoon is, it was described by FDR as the first 100 days, but it is basically those first few months when you are in office. You're coming in from a high off of the election, and you tend to see your highest ratings during that time period. And so you can get a lot done during a honeymoon period. And especially if Congress is of your party or you're willing to work with the other party if Congress is part and parcel of the other party. So your honeymoon is a great time in which ratings go up. An international level crisis is going to see a jump in your approval ratings. And that's because when something happens that is out of the ordinary, we tend to do what's called rally round the flag mode, okay? So if something extraordinary and negative happens, then the public will tend to provide more support, greater support for those who are figureheads for our country. And so, for example, September 11, okay, on September 10th, 2001, President Bush's approval ratings were pretty poor. He had come in from a very contested 5-week protracted election, and so his approval ratings were not amazing. He was in the high 30s, not an amazing place to be, not terrible. I mean, he wasn't Nixon levels yet, but it was not an ideal spot to be in. So that was September 10th. He's about 38%. September 12th, 2001, his approval ratings are north of 90%. Pew! The only possible cause of that was were the terrorist attacks on September 11th. We immediately jumped into rally around the flag mode. Now, he did, of course, not retain those high approval ratings. They decreased over time. Which is what happens when you have a spike in your ratings. They will decrease back down to the normal level. But during that time period, you can really utilize it very effectively if you're able to negotiate with Congress. And so during the continuation of his high approval ratings, even as they dropped, President Bush was able to get Congress to pass the Patriot Act with broad support. 20 years later, the Patriot Act does not have broad support, bipartisan or otherwise. But at the time, we were in rally around the flag mode. And so basically the public was saying, do what you got to do. Okay. So that's a benefit for ratings in terms of going up. The best way to improve your ratings as president is not a good one. The best thing to do is to get shot. Don't do it. So we tend to forget the president is a person. with feelings and a family, and, you know, they get hangry and they get cranky and they have bad breath in the morning. We forget that because we are so separated, we are disconnected. We only see presidents on TV or online. And that reminder of mortality, if something very bad happens, you remember, holy smokes, this person is in a hard job in which people want to shoot that person. So that's the very best way for your ratings to improve. Not recommended. Ever since President Reagan's attempted assassination back in 1981, whenever presidents go out in public, or vice presidents or presidential candidates, they have to wear a bulletproof vest. Yeah, just because that's the standard. That's the life that they're living now. So mortality, remind the public of your mortality is the best way to improve your ratings. Again, not recommended.